Welcome back to another Performance Matters podcast series. In this particular episode, we have the good fortune of meeting and talking with Becky Willis, a hero of mine in this industry, who has a great book entitled 7 Steps to Better Learning Engagement, Driving Business Results. And she has a wonderful take on what true learning engagement means. Lots of lessons learned, lots of enablement of performance support, embedded learning, workflow learning. Give a listen, friends. Great episode. All right, friends, welcome back to another Performance Matters podcast series. Bob Mosher here. It's an honor to be in dialogue with you. So appreciate all of you that subscribed. Love the comments. Keep the feedback going. It's what drives the topics, and we want it to be meaningful. So please do that with us. Today, honored to be joined by a dear friend, wonderful steward of the discipline, has written a great book that we're going to talk about that's spot on with everything we're doing. Becky Willis. Becky, it's great to have you here, friend. Welcome. Want to introduce yourself to the group real quick?
Hey, Bob. Yeah, I'm so excited to be here because I've been listening to this podcast for, just a couple of years. It hasn't been around a long time. It's fairly new, but yeah, for more years than either of us did. I have been in learning and development twice in my career, back at the beginning when we called it training.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a French teacher for a grand total of one semester, so I'm one of those people. So I did learning and development in tech companies. Couldn't get any further than level 1 manager, so moved over to marketing, did sales and marketing for a long time, rose up to be an exec in that area, running sales and marketing for a couple of different organizations. Ended up at Hewlett Packard for a long time. And as an executive, they were looking for someone who had been an executive who understood training and OD. So went back into the discipline.
Good for you.
I hate to say this, 20 years ago.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know. I got a little snow on the roof. I know how it all adds up. But
yeah. But I've been really lucky. I've done just about everything, executive and leadership development, of course.
Mm-hmm.
OD, pieces of the strategic, and a lot of focus on technology, learning technology. At HP, I brought on an LXP, so that kind of got me all hooked in that environment. And then I left HP and went to EdCast, which was bought out by Cornerstone. And now I'm the CLO for Tractus Learning. We're a little consulting firm that helps small and medium businesses to do learning strategy, learning technology, content, things like that. We really love our clients, the small businesses, and getting them all hooked up with exciting things.
Well, they need the help. They're a large population and underserved. So well earned, and I'm sure you do such great work. So honored to have you here. Your book, those listening, please get it. It's so aligned with this discipline and all we talk about here. But it's interesting. We're going to kind of start with a topic in the title and a word in particular, because I think our industry doesn't cast a broad enough net or looks at it maybe a little myopically. How's that? So it's called the 7 Steps to Better Learning Engagement, Driving Business Results. So engagement, Becky. Right? My gosh, covers a lot. I want to let those listening to just pause for a second and go, so how would I define learning engagement? And think about that. You give us your take. Why is this such a great place to start? Why did it become the title of the book? What's it mean to you?
To me, it is at a strategic level. And I'm not an instructional designer, although I have played one on TV. I've had teams of instructional designers. I appreciate them and everything that they do, but I'm not talking about classroom or course engagement.
Correct.
And I'm talking about trying to get strategic engagement at the leadership level, trying to get people to actually use and do learning and development to grow and develop and get the talent involved in it. It's been honestly a little bit of a challenge. When ATD asked me to do the book, it was based on a talk I did at ICE 2 years ago. It was called The 5 E's of Engagement. And they said, we want you to change the title, but we love the talk and we love the ideas you had in there. So write a book. And I did about 3 months worth of research and said, I think it's more like driving business results. And they're like, no, we can't change the title. So The subtitles, driving business results. So there's the focus. You
Yep.
know,
Yep.
it's I have to feel like I have to reinforce it's really about what's going on in learning today where we want business results, we want a business focus.
I love it because that's the tip of the sword, right? And to your point, and I appreciate you arguing for the title, right? Because it in our world of 5 moments, in our world of performance support, it is a performance first mentality, and if it's not
Mhm.
for impact, don't do it. It might be informational, it might be fun, it might be it might help you understand the topic more broadly. That's all well and good and table, but in the end, right? It's about what do I do? What's the impact? How to drive the business, and therefore what should we design for? So executive buy-in, big deal. It's huge in our world because we're also sometimes trying to change a mindset because they
Yeah.
know us as training,
Yeah.
right? We're
Yeah.
those order taker people. And why
Mhm.
would I talk to you about business results? Or, I just go down to your office when I want 7 days of leadership training. So why
Yeah.
is that number one in what does that mean? How can learning leaders change that perception and really get buy-in from executives?
This was one of the things that I think one of the reasons why HP brought me back
Hmm.
was because I had been one of those business leaders who felt like, it's training when as a leader what you hear is butts and seats, all of
Hmm.
those vanity metrics,
Yep. I
and
love
you
that.
see a cost center, and you see a lot of people, it's like, boy, I could use a couple of those people in sales or something. It it doesn't get us valued. I think
Oh,
Dr. Keith Keating using the word value, really important. The first thing that I wanted to do when I started out the book was talk about how we can get valued. I put in there some lovely research from Brandon Hall and Fosway and other folks about how we're not valued and that they look at the cost, they look at time. Because when you hear, oh, people don't have time for training,
mm,
what that means is they don't value training, so they're not going to
absolutely.
take the time to believe that it's going to help them. So that's a symptom
Mm,
and not the real problem. So I wanted to start with what I considered to be the real problem. I wanted to start with how do you get a business leader to actually believe in what you're doing? And my experience has been that not every business leader is ever going to be a follower of what you want to do,
yep.
but you can find those wonderful people. And at HP and other places that I've been, it's often someone who used to work at GE
Yeah.
and
Wow.
went to GE and got leadership training and became a leader and became the person that they are as a successful person because they had great development.
Mm,
They are performers because they understood all of that. So find that person, talk to them, sit down, talk with them about what are your business problems? What are your challenges? The typical what's keeping you up at night. Solve one of those problems. The story that I talk about throughout the book is a story that I absolutely love. I was brought in as a consultant with a team of instructional designers to fix a business problem. They had this particular manufacturing company, pretty large company, had a lot of people going through onboarding.
mm,
They would take 9 months
mm,
or 6 to 9 months to become proficient, and then they would leave. And in the meantime, quality was down, safety was down,
mm.
supervisors couldn't do anything, and the subject matter experts were spending their time working with these new hires. So that was a business problem where it was costing them money and also problems with, as I said, safety and quality.
Mm.
So we went in performance consulting talked about what were the performance problems, what were the challenges. We created a whole new onboarding program, extended that to the supervisors, extended that to OJT, had a lot of looks at different moments of need of what
Yeah.
those people did. And we were able to change all three metrics. We were able to change the time to proficiency,
Mm.
safety and quality. All of those improved by over 40%.
Wow.
So that's a business problem.
That's what I love about it, right? And none of it is about the vanity measures. I love the way you said that earlier, right? And I also love where you went at a problem. And I think L&D has a hard time making this cognitive shift or this design shift from
Mm.
hearing the ask and then going, okay, how would that be a course?
Course.
How would that be a curriculum? How would that, as opposed to, no, 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 no. Yeah, I didn't tell you about a course or curriculum. I told you about a business problem that I had, and let's run it that. If there's others, fine, but let's not make it into a curriculum. You find that to be a hard shift in, now you didn't come from L&D, so you had that different mindset, but do you think that's part of this for some folks?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think people have that education
Mm.
mentality. That's we're educating people. And as an ex-teacher, I mean, I I started
Yeah, me
out
too.
with kind of that
Yeah.
stuff. We're educating people, and that means sage on the stage and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
But today, that is just not all that they need. And what's so exciting to me about technology and what we can do today is that we don't have to just do courses. There are
Mm-mm.
so many mentalities. There's so much that AI can do. There's collaborative work where you can bring in subject matter or business matter experts. We can get leaders to provide content. It doesn't have to be our job to
Yeah.
do content. It's our job to consult on performance. So
Love that.
you are absolutely right. It is a shift. And I hope that this book gives people the 7 steps to make that shift,
Brilliant.
especially the first 3 shifts. And executive buy-in is where you have to start. It is absolutely that alignment with the business, talking about, marketing what you've done, getting the data, figuring out where the data comes from.
Hmm.
When I was at the manufacturing company, this plant manager who brought us on, an ex-GE guy, by the way, introduced me to a data analyst that
Hmm.
was on the shop floor. Well, he worked with the shop floor people, so he was doing mostly quality and safety
Hmm.
statistics and measuring those kind of things. And he and I sat down and figured out, what do we have? They had proficiency metrics that were pretty clear. It's manufacturing.
Yeah, sure.
Skills that people could do, and they had skill levels that people could do. So we came up with ways of figuring out how our data can fit into their data, and it was magical.
Well, it's so, buy-in begets strategy, right? We're
Mm,
peeling the onion back, right? And I
yep,
think that word scares L&D sometimes, right? Because it's not pragmatic. It's not building a course. It's really, you know, getting in the weeds, earning that seat at the table. But for many folks, it's a different muscle to exercise, particularly someone who comes out of a
yeah.
very, academic view of instruction. So, what's different about what you propose from what's happening today? And how does strategy fit in with the 5 moments of need and the performance first idea we talk about here?
Yeah, our focus has been, as we've been just talking about, on creating, managing, or Josh Bersin calls it publishing. We've been,
Hmm. Yeah.
in the publishing world, and we need to turn that over to the collaborative environment. We need to let AI and others work on that. So that is for a lot of people, that's a 180 shift.
Huge.
Uh, it is huge. They're doing things that they love doing, and I appreciate that.
And how they
I
how they
truly do.
perceive they're valued,
Yes. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. But what's cool is part of your strategy can be what I call a champions program. And I've created a whole chapter on this where you are a mentor to people, where you teach them the basics. You know, don't go on forever and ever and ever. 30 minutes is not what we want to do. All of those basics.
Hmm.
And I've talked to some people lately who have done a really superb job of this. Teach them the basics, be there as a consultant, be there as a coach, be there as a mentor, and you go off and do performance consulting. Now, at HP, back when I first joined in 2006, when I rejoined in 2006, we were handed a little book by the Robinson families on performance consulting. You remember the Robinsons?
Hmm. Yep.
That book changed everything for me.
How? Why?
It was looking at, and as you say, performance matters.
Mm.
Understanding, that we can go in and look at things from a strategic standpoint and suggest better ways. It's that merger with organizational design, organizational
Mm.
development. I love that stuff. So I am constantly recommending that book to people, and constantly recommending people like yourselves who talk about how do you get there? What do you do to get there? What are the places that performance fits in? And Steal These Thoughts, can't remember his name. His website has some really cool stuff on there too. As you know, and as you talk about, the first two moments are the only ones that people are addressing. They're not thinking about the other three in there.
Well, and Becky, I think part of the problem about this move to performance consulting thing is that it has a degree of listening or a degree of not knowing, not being as in control as the design side, the development side has, right? We'll do this
Good
upfront
point.
stuff, and then I'll walk away and do my thing, and then I'll come back. This is so I think it's a scary world for people that find comfort in the stability or the control of the design. Moving into that. When you think about performance consulting, what makes a good performance consultant? What characteristics, what competencies would you say?
Listening definitely is one of
Hmm.
financial acumen, business acumen are two that I think about. Really understanding, like when I was in the manufacturing environment, I'd worked in manufacturing back in my early days in HP, understood a little bit about widgets and stuff like that, but I really had to go out on the shop floor
Mm-hmm.
and see what the heck these people did, and be that person that, as you say, didn't know anything, and see what, if I were in their shoes, walk a mile in my shoes,
Yep.
what do I do? That's I think those that that to me is fun, but I know it's not fun for a lot of people.
Well, we both know Frank Gwynn and Brandon Carson and those folks. And I remember when Frank went to Amazon and Brandon went to Starbucks, I called him up in the first couple months they were there once the dust was settling to see how he was doing. And Brandon was making coffee as a barista and Frank was unloading boxes from a plane.
Yeah.
And I remember going,
Yeah.
what? And they were like,
Mhm.
how do I support the performance of the
Mhm.
business if I don't know the business? Now, they weren't going to become experts at all that. They weren't going to spend years there, but they made a point that they came back from that into their L&D role with a much different perspective of
Yeah.
what their
Yeah.
responsibility was, right? That's kind of what you're talking about, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's so critical and so important to do. Now it takes time,
Mm-hmm.
and to have time to do that, you need to have time that you're not doing instructional
Correct.
design.
Correct. It's a
And
swap. Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely a swap, but if you get that person, that leader that believes that you can help make a difference, then that's going to help. I remember when I was back at HP, one of the first programs I worked on was they wanted to change HR from being a support
Mm.
function to a business partner. What a wild idea, huh?
There's a shift.
So we brought in the top 100 HR folks globally
Mm.
and did a whole year-long program. We didn't bring them
Wow.
in for a year, but we brought them in
Sure.
to begin with, and one of the things that we ended up having to teach them was business acumen.
Mm-hmm.
They're wonderful, supportive, great human beings who are just been helping all of the organizations do their thing, and now they had to understand the business and be
Yep.
business partners.
Yep.
So a big part of that course was business acumen.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
think that's something that we all need to get kind of bought into, if you will.
And be comfortable being vulnerable with it and know that it's not your pedigree and that, but I think the business appreciates the effort and understand the vocabulary and the business problems they face. I watch Con Gottfredson do RWA's rapid workflow analysis all the time in areas I know he knows nothing about, zip
Mm,
zero, right? But he enters that room as confident as anything because his role is not to know. His role is to understand and to
yes.
pull out of those that know what they do. And he listens a lot and he reflects back a lot. And that room, he wins that room over in the first hour, not
Cool.
because he becomes one of them, but because he becomes a partner with them and
Yes.
listens to, and they open up and they share, and and performance comes out. So you mentioned technology and learning technology. You're a advocate of all that stuff. You even talk about
Say
dinosaurs.
it, Bob. I'm a geek. Okay, just say it.
That's
I'm a
okay. I
geek.
am
It's all
too.
right. I'd say.
I had a Newton once from Apple. That was a long story, but
Ooh.
even talk Con into buying one. But so, what is it about learning tech that you find is so important today, and so exciting today?
Tech is really the enabler that is going to give us the keys to this castle.
Bingo.
It is and enablement, and enable as a verb. That's one that I think is critical in all of this, is to
Mm.
think of tech as an enabler. Think of us and what we're going to do as enabling the business. I mean, sales enablement has existed forever, but how about us doing business enablement?
Yeah, I love that.
Real AI, there's a lot of different elements of what makes sense. One of the places I've focused on is how critical it is to have AI that is at the core, at the center of a learning management system, which I don't want to call an LMS anymore. I want to call it a learning platform.
Love that.
So LMSs are learning management systems. They are designed to manage courses
Hmm.
and to do all of those vanity metrics, which we need, how, who takes what, and follow up with all of that kind of stuff. But those are the metrics that are just for us.
Yep.
So something that is an old learning management system, like the one that we had at HP back when I was there, was one that doesn't exist anymore. But it's interesting that it is the basis for workday learning now. That old dinosaur is
Hmm.
when they designed workday learning to start out with, they're like, "Ooh, this one's cool. Let's follow this one," and they're making up for it, of course. But you you cannot achieve what we need to achieve with a dinosaur.
Yep.
You really, and if you put AI and you kind of plug it in and try to, add it on in there, it's like adding wheels onto a dinosaur. Very
Hmm.
cute, very nice little toy. I have some cool toys that I use for that point, but it's not going to help you. You
Yep.
need tech that has it at the core. That's your platform that you're going to go off in there, and that is going to enable a list of about 20 things that I'm not going to bother you with right
Hmm.
now. But that's step one. You need a platform that will work. Now, if HR or IT decided which learning platform you're going to have, which happens a lot, then and you're not going to be able to change it. Reality
Hmm.
bites. It's the way
Hmm.
it is. There are ways that you can layer
Right.
effective programs on top of that to make it do what all of the magic things you need it to do. That's step one of the tech bubble. Step two is stuff that Josh and Debbie Richards talk about a lot, and that is us using AI to get our jobs done better and more efficiently,
Hmm.
and that is way more than using AI to create courses.
Yep. Yep.
It is using the data that AI can give you on why salespeople are not performing or what's going on. Debbie gives this lovely example about someone who is in customer service who's brand new, and the software, the customer service software, said that there was a, I don't know how, I've forgotten, it's like 15-second quiet time when the person's frantically looking stuff up on her computer and didn't have the knowledge to say anything while she was doing all of that. And so the manager said that, I want you to do a course on how to look things up more efficiently. That's not what the problem was.
No.
So it's using AI to get you the data of what was she doing, how was that happening, and what was going on in her screen that she needed some help with, and
Yep.
attacking it from that side. If you have AI tools and BI tools, business intelligence tools in your organization, and who doesn't,
Right.
you can feed from your AI enabled platform to BI, and you can put your minds together and come up with business problems, business results. Boom.
So this is an evolution for L&D.
Mhm.
I mean, I was just at a conference a day ago, and one of the things shared in a state of an industry report was that 69% of modality is still ILT. VILT, 28% is e-learning. That leaves 3% for the rest. Really? Right? So holy cow. And
Wow.
and I was about to do a breakout session on moving to workflow learning and performance space. So where do you feel L&D needs to focus so how they can adapt as professionals to the changes that they face? We are a risk averse industry. I've been pushing this boulder uphill for a decade, and it's amazing how muscle memory takes us back to that DNA. What advice would you give L&D professionals at a time of really, for some, scary change to
Oh, yeah.
become what they
Yeah.
need to do?
Well, it's you can make AI your friend.
Mm-hmm.
I've for the past couple of years, I've been doing that. I know I'm a geek, but I've been having fun with it. And get yourself starting to use it and understand what it can do to help you get through some of your problems, some of your issues. So upskill yourself on what AI can do. Find a couple of mentors. Find that data analyst.
Mm-hmm.
An HR data analyst would be a really good friend of me.
Hmm.
Someone who's doing workforce planning, for example. It's like, wow, all of a sudden we need these skills. Oh, what can we do with that? Think about solving problems. Think about performance, but also think about when you have a problem at home. I'm sorry, I'm going to think of a really simple example. Okay,
Please.
I did a podcast with David James this week, yesterday. It was
Hmm.
only yesterday, and we were playing the part of attorneys.
Hmm.
So David was a judge, and he wore the wig for the English judges and the whole bit. So I dressed up, and I wore a collared shirt with a bow tie,
Hmm.
and the bow tie had dinosaurs on it because
There you go.
that's my thing. So I order it from Amazon. It's this pretty little bow tie with dinosaurs on it. And what comes is an untied bow tie.
Hmm.
I'm like, well, I went to my neighbor and I said, you know how to tie a bow tie? And he said, no. And I went across the street to my neighbor and he said, no.
No.
So where did I go? I went to YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you go today to figure out problems that you have? Think about the modalities that you use. Think about the things that you do to solve your own problems. Are you using Teams? How can you integrate Teams into
Mm-hmm.
what you want to do? Do
Mm-hmm.
you ask the person who's across the way and in the cubicle next to you, how do you do things? Well, how do you make it more collaborative? All of those different ways, the different 5 moments in need, how do you solve those yourself and
Right.
start integrating your own personal life into what you're doing for everybody?
It amazes me. I've often asked IDs if they would use their own stuff to learn. And I can't tell you how many are like, nope. And to your point, our whole life experience has been the best teacher, and we've navigated it through different things. And it's always perplexed me that we don't bring them into our trade, into our profession. We hold this line on the Addy stuff and the course and the outline and the rest. And boy, it's the chasm that's forming between us holding that line and what learners want. One of the 4 obstacles that was brought up during the state of the industry was lack of learner buy-in. It's at an
Mm,
all-time low because
yeah,
they just don't get
yeah,
why training is helpful. And why would I stop and step out of my busy day to do that, to just have to return to it behind? Right. So there's the value, there's the not seeing value, right? That in the old days of people couldn't get enough 40 hours of training a year and wanted more because it was seen as a different thing.
yes.
But we live in,
They had time.
they had time, and we live in a different domain. Things didn't change as much. And we still, though, in that world, fall back on the old thing and hope it'll be effective. So Dad, or Becky, let's go full circle on this. So 7 steps. I go back, make sure I get this. Seven steps to better learning engagement, driving business results. One takeaway we talked about a lot. What's the tip of the sword for you in this pivot and as a takeaway from your book?
I, s- I truly believe, in though there are 7 steps, that the first 3 steps are those that are critical. It's really starting with that align with the business. And I think a part of aligning with the business in what you were talking about just a minute ago, Bob, is how many of we are mostly lifelong learners. We
Mm-hmm.
love to learn. We think it's really fun to learn. How many of our audience are? I mean, if we're talking, frontline people in fast food restaurants, they're not frontline people in fast food restaurants because they love to learn.
Yeah, right.
So, we're not addressing people's real needs and we're not showing our value. The other thing that I really want to reinforce, and it's a hard message, and I'm sorry to have to say it, but it's true. If we don't do this, we're going to continue to lose our jobs.
Yep.
We are losing jobs in learning, instructional design jobs especially, faster than almost any. I read something in Harvard about it's faster than any other role. So if we don't change, then we better find another profession.
Yep. Yep. We have to change our value. Well, my friend, part of your gift and the book that you bring is because of those years of experience, because you are a lifelong learner, because you call it the way it is, right? And because you know how we should reach and serve the business. So thank you for that. Thank you for your book. Thank you for your insights.
Yeah.
How can people get a hold of you if they want to follow up more besides buying the book?
LinkedIn is a great way to find me. I post pretty frequently on LinkedIn. We have a newsletter on LinkedIn that I do as well. And as always, feel free to reach out. My email is really pretty simple. It's just becky@tractuslearning.com. But LinkedIn's simple. Reach out, talk to me. I'm always open to talk with people and see whatever we can do to help. That's fun stuff for me.
Appreciate you. Thanks for who you are and all you do. Thanks for being here at the podcast. Can't wait.
Appreciate it.
Well, that's it for this episode of the 5 Moments of Need Performance Matters series. We look forward to future conversations around how to best put the 5 Moments of Need into practice. We welcome your feedback and can be reached on our 5 Moments of Need website, which is www.5momentsofneed.com. We hope you're finding these helpful and will subscribe to future episodes. Have a great day, friends.